Welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking a truly fascinating, almost unbelievable cultural paradox from the late 1960s and early 1970s. Right in the middle of this incredibly turbulent, deeply divided era in America, a brand new musical movement popped up out of nowhere: country rock. We're going to look at how this unique, hybrid genre wasn't just some fun musical experiment, but was actually trying to act as a profound sociological bridge.
So let's dive right into this unexpected cultural twist. The country was so divided back then, and you really have to stop and ask yourself, why did former counterculture icons, the long-haired musicians searching for authenticity, why did they suddenly find it in the music of their ideological opposites? I mean, they were diving headfirst into the very sounds traditionally associated with the conservative establishment. It's wild.
To put this into perspective, picture the nation split into two completely different ideological maps. On the left side, you've got the counterculture, right? Psychedelic rock, anti-war hippies, Woodstock. But then, on the right, you have traditional Middle America. We're talking honky-tonk music, Nixon's silent majority, and the Grand Ole Opry. These two groups basically couldn't stand each other.
Now, as scholars have pointed out, this crossover wasn't just a random musical anomaly. It is literally a deeply studied demographic and sociological detective story. The whole development of country rock reflects this genuine, almost desperate yearning from the youth. They were trying to escape a chaotic, corrupt present by retreating to what they saw as a virtuous, deeply rooted American past. Section 1, Psychedelia and the Catalyst. To understand this massive shift, let's rewind a bit to 1966. Talk about whiplash! The Byrds, who were this massively popular folk rock band, recorded their groundbreaking track 8 Miles High in January of '66. They dropped the single in March and immediately hit a brick wall. By April, just a month later, the influential Gavin Report, which was this huge broadcasting trade journal, recommended a nationwide radio ban. Officially, the ban was slapped on because of alleged drug lyrics. The band swore up and down it was just about a flight to London. But honestly, the real fracture went way deeper. The song was just wildly experimental. It had this droning sitar vibe influenced by Ravi Shankar and freeform jazz saxophone inspired by John Coltrane. Plus, it was over 2.5 minutes long, which commercial radio absolutely hated back then. It was uncommercial, it was complex, and it proved that rock culture had officially disconnected from mainstream American values.
Section 2, the unsung country pioneer. Now we absolutely have to talk about Gene Clark.
So Gene Clark was the primary songwriter for the Byrds. He basically wrote their biggest early hits, but he started feeling totally alienated from the whole rock machine. Combine that with a profound fear of flying and some pretty intense management conflicts, and he actually walked away from the band at the absolute peak of their fame. He was a Midwesterner by birth, so he retreated from the chaotic LA rock scene to try and find a pure sound, something closer to his roots.
And what he did next was phenomenal. In 1967, he drops Gene Clark with the Gosden Brothers. Critics describe it as a fully realized, damn near perfect country rock album right out of the gate. It was severely overlooked at the time, mostly because it wasn't promoted well and Clark flat out refused to tour. But this record laid the absolute foundational groundwork for the entire country rock genre.
Section 3, Cosmic American Music, which brings us to a monumental figure in this whole movement, Gram Parsons.
Cosmic American music was Gram Parsons' own signature term. He had this vision of a deliberate musical marriage between redneck roots and long-hair modernism. His grand idea was to take the structure and soul of hard country music and inject it with the poetic, progressive sensitivity of his own counterculture generation. He literally wanted to unite hippies and working-class country fans through song.
To pull this off, Parsons had to do some conscious adapting. See, traditional hard country music usually dealt with pretty gritty stuff: masculine aggressiveness, binge drinking, cheating, prison, the works. Parsons purposefully stripped a lot of that away. Instead, he zeroed in on universal emotional tragedies. He sang about shared alienation, deep loneliness, wistful sentimentality, and lost innocence. He essentially smoothed out the grit so that the emotional core would really resonate with the hippie crowd.
You can hear this blending perfectly in his classic track, Hickory Wind. It plays right into that classic country trope of the urban versus rural divide. The simple country boy feeling lost and lonely in the big, cold city. But look closely at that lyric, all the riches and pleasures. He's winking at his audience here, acknowledging his own ironic status as an upper-class kid yearning for a mythic rural home that frankly he never actually knew.
Because here is the reality. Parsons was a Harvard dropout from a Southern family with incredibly old money. He had a massive trust fund and lived this totally hedonistic rock star life in LA. Yet his stage persona? Working-class trucker, simple country boy. He was basically an outsider, an intercultural interpreter, if you will, synthesizing a working-class identity to bridge this massive cultural gap in America.
Section 4. Retreat to the roots. While Parsons was theorizing out in LA, the band was practically applying these ideas up in Woodstock, New York. In 1969, the band dropped their self-titled second record, widely known as the Brown Album, and it was just a stark, deliberate contrast to the whole era. No psychedelic acid rock, no boastful 20-minute guitar solos. Instead, they leaned heavily into soul, gospel, and old-time folk. The guys even dressed like 1850s pioneers on the album cover. They were visually and musically retreating to a mythologized 19th-century rural working-class past.
The very first track on the album is called Across the Great Divide, and honestly, that title tells you everything you need to know. The entire album was this ambitious cultural work of reconciliation, actively trying to bridge the divided sides of the nation, north and south, country and city, past and present.
Their chief songwriter, Robbie Robertson, populated this record with incredibly rich, almost Steinbeck-esque characters. You've got the overworked trucker finding comfort with a honky-tonk angel and up on Cripple Creek. You have Virgil Caine, a sympathetic, sturdy yeoman farmer surviving the Civil War and the night they drove old Dixie down, and then the class-conscious, union-loyal Southern sharecropper in King Harvest. The band was intentionally pushing back against mainstream media portrayals that usually just dismissed the rural working class as ignorant or jingoistic.
Section 5. Legacy of Country Rock. Let's look at the lasting impact of all these musical experiments.
The huge takeaway from this explainer isn't just that some rock bands decided to play twangy guitars for a few years. By borrowing from the rural South and using their unique outsider interpretation, these artists permanently expanded the boundaries of both rock and country music. They set out to solve a temporary sociological divide, and in the process, they built a beautiful, enduring musical bridge that changed the American soundscape forever.
Which leaves us with this final, really important thought. We are living in our own highly polarized times right now, aren't we? So where do we see this kind of unexpected musical and cultural crossover happening today? Who is bridging the gaps right now? It's a great reminder that music continues to be one of our absolutely most powerful tools for cultural reconciliation. Thanks so much for watching this explainer, and keep looking for those bridges.